Hello and welcome to another week of Willow Talk. Adam Peacock alongside Brad Haddin. How are you, Hads?
Mate, I'm very good. It's good to be here today. And I tell you what, today's guest, the Australian selectors would love to have the options he would give in this test series. 6, but more importantly, a good opener.
So good the first time on Willow Talk. We've got him back again. Shane Watson. Watto, how are you?
Thanks. Very good. It's always a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Feel 10 foot tall after that intro. Thank you.
Well, we pump each other's tyres up, or pump the guest tyres up, and then we deflate each other's. So, Bradley?
Well, I've just spent an hour at HR, and
Yes.
your name is a common denominator.
It's your favourite office in the building, isn't it?
Well, I've got my own seat there now, and you've got your own file, and it's massive. This is bullying.
Yeah, no. Handy. Just getting back for a few Kiwi cricketers around the place. Anyway, Watto is in here to talk all things cricket. He's going to talk to us about the winner's mindset. And last time you were in here, you told us about the book. It's now an online course. It's obviously going okay. It's going very well.
Yes.
Big smile on your face.
My book sold really well, whether here in Australia and also in the Indian market as well. But now to be able to sort of morph it into an online course version as well, people learn in different ways, especially using devices as a way that people learn in this day and age. So being able to turn it into an online course, more interactive, more engaging way of learning. And I was able to partner up with Safety Culture, which is one of Australia's really big success tech companies. So they put all their wisdom that they've got from the tech side to be able to make sure that it's incredibly engaging.
Good stuff. Look forward to talking about some of the cricketers you've been working with. Not going into too much detail. I'm sure there's some kind of client confidentiality scheme there or something like that. But
Well, we know Sam's going to play Test cricket. Watto's got him ready.
Sam Constas. Yes, exactly. And speaking of Test cricket, it's Border-Gavaskar week.
Yeah.
It's starting this week,
Can't
so
wait.
we'll talk to Watto about that and some of the old memories fished out last night. Producer Sam put it on the rundown, and I went down a little YouTube rabbit hole and found something from a Harley in 2010 that I still can't believe happened. But anyway, we'll get to that a bit later on. You weren't there, Hads. Your finger nearly snapped off. So unfortunately, I'm glad you weren't there either, because your reaction would have been interesting to say the least. And
Suspended.
since the last time you were in, we've actually developed something called the Secret Cricket Club, where it's basically questions from punters that we just deliver to you and you answer.
Perfect.
So we've vetted them. It's okay.
You sure?
We've vetted
That's
them.
fine either way. That's
We've
fine.
vetted them. So we don't cover old territory or whatever like that. Now, just a reminder before we get into it with Watto, Willow Talk will be with you all throughout summer, the regular episodes, plus every day of the Test summer. Hads and Izzy Westbury will bring you up to speed with everything that happened during the day and answer your questions. So to get your questions in, join the Secret Cricket Club on Instagram. All the links are in the episode notes. Look forward to sending some questions in from the couch, Hads.
Well, Gambier, he did a few silly things last week, so there'll be a right or reply very, very shortly with that. So
Yeah, and that's the thing about big series, isn't it, Watto, that people say things, and all this week people will be saying things. Does it really matter? Like, we're going to get onto your winner's mindset. Does any of that eke in to performance, personal performance? Because that's what cricket is. It's individual performance in a team environment.
Yeah, look, the only thing that really matters is that little bit of extra motivation that someone from the opposition saying something can actually give you to be able to just zero into that high performance mindset. If you're slightly off your game, you need a little bit of extra motivation. If someone in the opposition says something, that can be the thing that really zeroes you into just being at your very best. And someone like Gautam Gambhir, I've had a few different experiences with him on the field. Obviously, he's had extraordinary success as a mentor in the IPL with a few franchises that he's been around. So, it'll be interesting to see how the relationship between him and Virat Kohli continues to go as well. That's always been very interesting to watch from afar.
Yes.
And now that they've joined hands together with the Indian team, India is it's going to be great to watch.
Did you ever have, either of you two guys, did anyone come running into the dressing room one day with a newspaper clipping and put it in front of your eye and said, so-and-so said this about you? Or did you hear it on the grapevine?
You pretend you don't read it, but you read most things. The interesting thing about Gambier is his reaction. The Test series hasn't started, so there's no point for him to be reacting from outside noise. You want to get ready for this Test series. You want to go about your business. They've called off their tour game. So they looked a little bit reactive at the moment. So if he's under pressure now and reacting the way he is right now, imagine if they lose the first test.
Or win it. Flip it on its head. Who knows? Looking forward to the first ball, put it that way, because all the talk kind of becomes put to one side. Let's go into the winner's mindset. So the online course, how did this come about? Was it a natural spin-off off the back of the book? And when's it going to be a Netflix series as well?
Good question.
Who plays you?
Yeah, not sure. No comment. Look, the online course version of the winner's mindset was always something that I had in my mind that I wanted to just provide different learning experiences for different people. When I was talking to a lot of different people about my book, a lot of people don't actually read. I love reading. I read as many books as I possibly can, but a lot of people in this day and age don't actually read books. They prefer to listen to things or find other ways to be able to learn. So
yeah, listen to podcasts. Everyone's much better.
That's right. Listen to podcasts. Listen to things where you can actually learn some things. So, so the online course is always in the back of my mind to be able to morph the information into, and then to be able to find as I mentioned earlier, the partner of safety culture. They just turned the dream that I had for my online course into reality and blew it away with what they're able to put together.
So you can do it any time.
You know, any time it's on demand. Yeah. And there's text, there's audio from that I've talked through different experiences. There's quizzes as well. So there's different ways to be able to sort of learn the information. It's slightly more condensed, so it's more of a micro learning course. So you don't sort of have to read through the whole book to be able to get the key concepts to be able to help you get out of your own way to be able to perform at your best more consistently.
Great idea, mate.
Well, what I want to ask, I'm a young cricketer. Had a perfect off season, as we all do. Mate, I'm as fit as I've ever been. My game's in a great spot. First 3 games of the, let's say, Shield season, I've scored under 10 in all the games. My training's been spot on. I come to you and say, what have I got to do about my game? Where do we start?
So the first thing that the first thing I'd say is around the results side of things. Is your preparation? Are you doing everything you can in the lead up to every game to tick every box that you can to give yourself the best chance, and strip it back to, okay, what does your preparation look like?
Yep.
Technically, in the lead up to a game, how many balls are you hitting?
Yep.
Are you hitting too many balls? Which is a lot of people, especially when they haven't scored runs, they really go over the top. I need to hit more balls. I need to work on my technique. Whereas most of the time, yes, there might be a little technical thing you're working on, or you need to make an adjustment, but a big part of it is actually mentally freshening up. So then you've got all that mental freshness to be able to go into a game ready to react and bat for long periods of time. So that would be step one, is just to strip back about how things have been in the last few weeks, and the little things that we can tweak. But then one of the sort of most important things that I do with individuals when I'm working with them is sitting down and really deeply defining their best performance. Is going back to what is a performance that really stands out. It doesn't necessarily have to be the highest runs that you've scored or the most amount of wickets, but just one of those performances where it was just effortless. It was like you were on automatic and you wish it was like that every time. And by really stripping it back and deeply defining that version of you, then you know exactly which version of you're trying to take into the next game. Yeah. So if you missed out in the first 3 games, there's no question there would have been in that third game, you'd be going into that game to talk from a batting perspective. You'd have a negative mindset around, don't get out, I need to score runs, I need to bat time. Whereas when you're batting at your best, you've got no thoughts of that at all. It's like, where am I going to hit the ball? Yeah. Who am I going to take down? Yeah. So it's actually just flipping that those thoughts around, just to be able to then step into the next game with a different mindset, a different version of you, the best version of you. And you can still miss out and not score runs, but you're giving yourself a much better chance.
Do you reckon back in our day, and I don't like to go back there, these conversations like this happen more naturally with us? Like, so we'd have a bad day and we could sit down, whether it be yourself, Haydos, a Clark, a Ponty, and you'd talk about this. And in the end, you'd come out with a result. Say, hang on a minute, my training's going well. I've prepared the best I can. I've been knocked over by 2 good balls. I've been run out twice and I've got none. And that naturally happened. In this day and age, I don't think they have enough of those natural conversations. And I think the mindset here is the most important thing for players now to look at. They hit enough balls. They train harder than anyone. But it's understanding how your mindset works.
It certainly is. And look, I look back at my time during my playing days, and the one thing that I always talked about to all those players that you mentioned was technique.
Yeah.
Always, that was always a thing. And if I got out a certain way, whereas Ricky especially was a technical genius, right, with his understanding of the batting technique, I'd always talk about technique, but very rarely would I actually talk about and ask questions around my mindset, where my thoughts have been, what his thoughts or what everyone else's thoughts were when they're at their very, very best.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing, if I had my time again, which you can't, but I would have asked those questions more and sort of in parallel with the technical sort of evolution. It would have been, okay, mindset. What are the things you're thinking as a bowler's running in? Why are you thinking those things in between balls? What's your preparation look like from a mental perspective? So those were the questions that I wish and conversations I wish I had through my career.
Yeah.
We definitely had those conversations, but not in the real sort of
Yeah.
granular detail around these are things that I do and these are things that work. So maybe try a couple of those things and it's a good chance of them working.
Where does luck lay on the list of not excuses but reasons? Like what I'm thinking, cricket, you can be unlucky. You can go through, try and dash through for a quick single and have the pegs thrown down. You can rock up and you're feeling good about your game and cop one that Alistair Cook copped from Ryan Harris one day at the Wacker.
Happy birthday, Ryan.
Happy birthday, Ryan Harris, going well with South Australia. But in all seriousness, where like with something like this, where you're all about your mental preparation, where can you kind of lay down on the unlucky pillow and say, that was just luck, I've got to keep going through this?
Yeah, luck plays a huge part in your outcome and the results. And in cricket, that's you see it very obviously, whether you can go and play and miss on a number of balls and end up getting a big score, or the first ball you actually nick and get caught behind. And the most important thing is understanding what you're defining your performances around. And it's not the results, because there is luck, good and bad luck, that actually gets in the way, that then has a big impact on the results. It's actually, am I bringing the very best of what I've got right here and now? And if I do that, then, and I'm doing that every single ball, then I'm giving myself the best chance of having, if an opportunity, a little bit of luck goes my way, then I'm a more chance of having a really good day. So the things that you can control are your preparation, your technique, your understanding of you do control your thoughts. You can control your thoughts if you want to. So having the right thoughts at the right time, your commitment. Are you really desperate to be able to put it all on the line to be at your very, very best, or are you a bit distracted, or you really couldn't care today? You're a bit sort of what will be will be. So it's understanding the things that you are in control of to bring the very best that you can. And then assessment after your performance is, was there an event, an unlucky event, or something that sort of got in the way that then had a big impact on the outcome? And then what is one or two things that I could work on? Say I play, instead of playing missing, I nick the first ball. What is the thing that I can work on the lead up to the next game to reduce the chance of that sort of unlucky event sort of happening?
Fair enough. What about some of the players you work with? I don't know how much detail you can go into, but Kuldeep Yadav has given you a big up. Not only am I bowling better, I'm loving my bowling now more than ever. Hopefully he doesn't do that when he fronts up against Australia too much. But anyway, what about, and also Sam Constas, who we know you work with him. I don't know how much detail you can give about Sam, but has he got the new age approach in your eyes to be able to deal with, look, he's got obvious talent, but there's going to be some obstacles in his way along the way. That's cricket. Yeah,
and that's life. The obstacles that you're presented with. The one absolute pleasure that I've had with learning this information is been able to impart this on as many people as I can. And as Hads knows all too well, from a coaching perspective, you have an audience ready and waiting for people who want to be at their very best technically, but especially from a mental perspective. So having a chance to be able to work with Kuldeep Yadav and a number of the international guys, whether it's someone like Phil Salt from a time at the Delhi Capitals, but also someone like Sanju Samson of recent times as well, through my days playing with him at the Rajasthan Royals and reconnecting with him. It's just one of the biggest gains that you can get is actually learning the mental skills side of you as a performer. you can work tirelessly and work harder and put in the hours to be able to develop your technical skills. But your quickest gains, your biggest gains, is actually understanding how to be able to have the right thoughts at the right time to be able to access the skills. That's where you can see it with highly skilled people. You can just see it. It's so obvious with their performance, which version of them steps out into the middle. And someone like Sam Constance, he's been implementing and troubleshooting this information for the last 4 years. So you can see when he's at his best, you can see him just continually pulling himself back into the best version, ball after ball. What's the right thoughts for him every moment that he's out there, and then also in the lead up to the game, what he does his preparation, but then make sure that he's mentally fresh with his meditation, with finding ways to be able to actually like pull back and chill out as well, and not go into a game having already in your own mind played the game already. So from that perspective, Sam Constance is incredible, so much more well equipped than I was at 19 or 20 with his understanding of his game technically and mentally. He's still learning all the time. Like it's been a great experience in over the last couple of weeks. Very rarely in your career do you have a bat off. You're involved in a
four of them
like
going for one
right
spot.
there, like head-to-head bat off. Whoever score runs the most runs just about is in.
Yeah.
Very rarely does that happen. So that's a proper microscope on exactly where he's at and where those guys are at. Because in the end, as we all know, just because he scored the most runs, that doesn't mean you're actually the best player over a long period of time.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's the reality of what it was.
Just on Sam, I mean, no one wants to put undue pressure on the kid, but in your eyes, he plays Test cricket eventually?
100%. He's he's so highly equipped. Technically, he's very sound, but also mentally, he's got the freedom as well to be able to play his best. We saw when he scored runs, whether it was in that second innings of the A game, once he finds his feet in an innings, the stuff that he does is fearless. And for a 19-year-old and anyone throughout your career to be able to play with that freedom, that's what every batter dreams of, being able to actually let the handbrake off. And then you do things that you only dream of. And you saw that the 100 in each innings that he got for New South Wales, it was the way he constructed his innings and the way he batted, which is the reason why he set so many tongues wagging, because of the way he went about scoring those runs. And
you double down on that, Hads. You've seen him in the flesh. You know what you're looking at when you're looking at technique and temperament and all of those things.
Well, and talking to Watto, the one thing a player like Sam is he's going to play Test cricket. It's a difference between playing Test cricket and being a Test cricketer. He'll train and hit all the balls he can, but that's not what makes you a Test cricketer and a long-term Test cricketer. It's just mindset stuff of understanding on how you get yourself in the perfect spot. Sometimes you can go out in Test cricket, all this is perfect, and the bowler just be too good to you on the day. Then the mindset thing becomes that you don't second-guess everything you've done. Like a young athlete will come out and go, oh, I got 2 ducks in a row. Hang on a minute, you only face 3 balls. You can't mean you're in bad form. It's just that can happen in this. And then if you've got something to go back to here and say, okay, what's your checklist? Here. Your preparation was good. You don't need to throw the toys out of the cot just because you got knocked over. And that's the difference between being a guy that plays a Test match and a Test cricketer.
So on this mindset thing, for a cricketer in a general sense, at an elite level, not that you'd take 2 ducks, what you're saying there, you face 3 balls, but in some ways, getting into someone's head, that is actually not as bad as 20 off 60 and barely being able to get the ball off the square, like chunking it around. And I mean, where do you define that?
Well, I'll go for it. Doesn't like 2 ducks are bad. As a player, you go, mate, I don't want to get 2 ducks.
It looks crap.
Well, you become under pressure. So, okay, you get 2 ducks. All of a sudden, you start to second guess your preparation. They're talking about you in the media, saying, oh, Haddin's got 2 ducks in a row, he's going to lose his spot. So I'm going to lose my spot. So all I'm thinking about is, I've got to get 50, not to lose my spot. Where my process back here was say, okay, my preparation's right here, and here. How can I contribute to winning the Test match for the team? And that mightn't be 50. It mightn't be have a clear head to bat. Hang on a minute, I've got to change the momentum of the game here. The team needs it down. And what I was talking about is playing with that freedom in your mind and in body, that you just play the game in front of you, not thinking about the outcome all the time. Young cricketers these days think, oh, I've got 50. I'm playing well. Well, I said, no, you're not. We lost the game. You could have changed momentum here. You got bogged down here. So it's not always about what the end result is. And that's the stuff that I think, Watto, that your younger generation can learn most from something like this.
It is the young generation, but it's also the generation of people as well, like just in general, because life is based around results, right? Everyone wants to be the very best, whether you get picked or you...
Like we are, number one
That's
podcast.
it. Yeah, there you go.
Thank you.
Nice segue.
Yeah, no time.
And everyone wants to be the very best as they possibly can and get the best results every single time. But when we don't get those results that we're looking for, that's when our slippage can really start to come in. We start to worry about, God, what's going to happen if I don't perform? What if this doesn't work out? But it's understanding the things that we are in control of is our preparation, is our confidence. And our confidence has to be based around bringing the best of who we are every time, not around results, because we can't control those. Those go up and down. Even if we've brought the very best that we can, we can still also not get the results we're looking for. So it's basing our confidence around us bringing the best that we possibly can and ticking every box that we can. And then troubleshooting as you're out there by being present, but also troubleshooting and debriefing after a performance to be able to work out, okay, what was the thing? Was there something that was slightly off? Because I could have brought the very best that I can, but not get the results that I'm looking for. But that in theory, that's the best that you possibly can do.
You're sitting at home in your office now, door opens, young Shane Watson walks in and sits down right next to you. What do you say?
This is weird.
Well,
probably what I'd say for you.
Geez, you're a good-looking bloke. But you come down, young Shane Watson at the lowest part you think in your career.
Yeah.
He sits down next to you. What advice do you give him?
I know straight away. Like I would have, the first thing that I'd do is just take him through these mental skills information, educate that person on just exactly how the mind works.
Yeah.
Because it will definitely help performance. But the one thing there is no question that will help is the stress and worry and anxiety around performance, whether that's in the lead up to a performance or after a performance. Because I look back at my career, and if I learnt these mental skills techniques as a sort of late teenager, the results might not have been any different. I feel very fortunate to have had the career and been around the teams that I did, and have the success individually and collectively that I was involved in. So look, the results might not have been any different. The thing that definitely would have been different is my understanding the anxiety and worry and stress that was just so front and center in everything that I did would have just about been eliminated. So the troughs that I had would have been not as deep. The enjoyment that I had would have been through the roof instead of just getting and feeling like I had the weight of the world on my shoulders because I did. That's what I put on myself. It's from no one else. It's from myself. So that would have been different. So that's what I'd tell a younger version of me coming in, just going, look, you learn these skills and apply these now and troubleshoot them, then the stress and worry and anxiety around performance will be significantly reduced so you can actually really enjoy every moment of doing what you do.
Awesome advice. Just quickly before we move on to your thoughts on the impending test series, how can we access this online course? Just literally Google Winner's Mindset online course.
Just shanewatson.au. It's front and center on my website.
There you go.
It's there, ready to go.
Done. Excellent. Have a look if you're out there and wondering about how you get the best out of yourself. And it's just not cricket, is it? It's life. It's stop.
Performance. We're all performing in all different parts of our lives, so it's performance.
Exactly. Cool. Test series. So, okay, we'll stay with the theme if you like. Nathan McSweeney's got the gig. Sammy has to wait, and as you say, he's going to play Test cricket one day. But Nathan McSweeney gets the call up. A lot of people in Australia are happy for this guy. What do you see about how he goes about his business? Obviously, being entrusted with leadership roles, so they rate him behind the scenes, coaches and the like. What does he need to rock up and do day one, first test?
He certainly looks very organised, like a very organised player, which you can see he's got a really simple game plan. He doesn't premeditate. He's got all the shots that you need to be a successful international cricketer. Obviously, leadership-wise, it looks like they've got great confidence in just him as a human being and his ability to be able to lead people, which is why he got the opportunity to captain the Australia A. He's definitely as good a chance as anyone to be able to make the most of an opportunity to be open the batting. It's going to be a different challenge for him, but look, it's going to be a different challenge for all the Australian batters. As simple as
even Steve Smith going back to his natural habitat, because you weren't the biggest fan of him being an opener, were you?
I thought that, Steve wanted to open. He was super keen to open to have a new challenge. But the one thing with that opportunity that he had, he actually wasn't batting at his best at that time. So he got an opportunity to open. And Steve Smith at his very best would have made the most of that because he just scores runs wherever he batted, whether he's opening or batting at number 4. You could see even the way he got out a few times when he was opening, his game technique was just a little bit off. Whereas I've seen a few things, even one of the innings in the one-day series where at the MCG, wow.
That's as good as he looked for 2 years.
Oh, geez. It looked like the very best of him. He had so much time.
Yeah.
He just had all his shots on display. So, look, if I'm confident Steve Smith will bring that version of him into this summer, and whether he's opening or batting number 4, he'll score runs. But just going back to the opening batters, the biggest challenge is facing Jasprit Bumrah. He is that bloody good.
Yeah, he is.
With a brand new ball at any time, swings it both ways, pace, he comes out different. The ball comes out differently as well. So it's not something you're used to facing all the time. He's got pace. He can bowl. His bounces on the money. His change of pace is hard to pick up. And his consistency as well, and maintaining his speed throughout the day.
Yeah.
He's a complete bowler. So any batter is going to have their work cut out.
But I think the big thing we haven't spoke about enough leading into this, yes, Bumrah is world class and he's all those things, but he's also been that with Mohammad Shami at the other end. I think that's a big 1-2 punch there misses. You get through Bumrah and you think, and Shami hits the seam as well as anyone in world cricket. So you don't have that at the other end. You've got some quality bowlers, but these two are world class. So it's going to be interesting to see how Bumrah reacts without his mate at the other end. But McSweeney, different personalities suit opening better than others. Like Watto, when you played some of your best cricket, you loved opening. Get out there, yep, I know exactly what my role is, and played your best cricket. One of the things with McSweeney is, and I'm all for picking the 6 best batters, is your routine does change. Like 9 down, you're not thinking about, I can have a shower, I can quickly sit down, have a coffee, get myself ready. You got to rush back in, get ready, and maybe go out and face 5 overs of uncomfortable bowling. So it'll be interesting to see how his personality suits that role as well.
That's right. And like from my perspective, opening the batting really suited me.
Yeah.
Because it took away it gave me the freedom to not care about getting out.
Yeah.
Whereas when I was batting at sort of number 4 or lower down the order, then how I'd approach the innings would be dictated by what was happening in the game.
Yeah.
Instead of actually going out and going, look, I don't care what's going on. I'm just going to bat. I'm going to take the game on, bring the best that I can, and what will be will be.
Yeah.
And opening just allowed me to have that freedom to go, you know what? If I get out, the rest of the guys can sort it out, which just gave me the freedom, which happened a bit and had to get us out of trouble. But
I wasn't thinking much. My mind was that clear.
Whereas for me, that was actually the freedom that I needed. And you're absolutely right. Does that really suit Nathan McSweeney? Does that freedom or does that opportunity that's going to change things compared to batting at number 3 or 4? Whereas you had a couple of guys who opened, so they fully understand exactly what it's like to be able to go out and have to quickly get changed and take some of the world's best bowlers on.
What about the Mitch Marsh role? So as we sit here right now, we think he's batting at 6, unless something weird happens. I mean, we made mention last week that Alex Carey's probably the best bat in Australian cricket at the moment. He's flying. So I don't know if they're going to tweak the order. I doubt it heavily, but he's bowling. So doesn't have the massive load of bowling going into a series of importance where ideally he's called upon, say if we're out there for 90 overs with the ball, he bowls 10 of them at least. Now, your situation when you prepared for test matches where you knew you were going to be chucked the ball occasionally, what did you think you needed before going into it and having that preparedness around your role?
Well, you need to have your body as hardened as you possibly can, and for me it was always that was a nice edge, to be honest, around being able to push my limit and my workloads up to a point without breaking, even if it was only for like 10, 12 overs, especially at the back end of my career, to not break. So, Mitch Marsh is certainly his body is quite fragile, as mine was. So I'm not talking out of school because I know it better than anyone. And the one thing that we don't want to do with Mitch Marsh is push him, then he gets injured, and then we miss out on his impact that he has at number 6 as a batter. Obviously, missing Cam Green is look, it's a huge loss. He is just I love watching that guy play. He is just that good. We saw what he's able to bring all the facets of his game together, like we saw that innings he played against New Zealand at the start of the year. So they're certainly going to need that little bit of extra bowling for sure. It's just how much Mitch Marsh can sort of push without sort of breaking and then missing him for the rest of the season.
Well, it's also a totally different role. Mitch's role is different to Cam Green's because where he did such a good job, you obviously got your 3 world-class quicks, but they called on Green a lot to say, listen, we need to ruffle this game up a bit. You need 4 overs of bumpers. And no matter who you are out there, go to the nets, grab a cricket ball and try to bowl 4 overs of bumpers. It's a nightmare on the body. And Mitch Marsh, he's a different style. He'll get the ball up and swing. He's got great shape and great seam when he gets the ball going. But someone's going to have to do those intimidating overs as well. So you've got to go back to, is it Hoff? Is it Paddy to do that? And that's hard work. So with him not being in the team, it puts so much pressure now back on those 3. And your game plan changes.
Marnus wants the ball, though. He can come in off the long run like he did in the Shield season earlier this year. We'll see about that.
That's interesting viewing.
We'll see about that. It's always interesting with Marnus.
Well, it was interesting to see how he reacted to the captaincy, like pulling his players.
As I said, interesting viewing.
Next.
So you had bowler that when you were playing Watto at one time, there was McGrath, Lee, Warne in the team. How do you view this, like the 4 of them all together as a unit?
Oh gosh, they're incredibly good when they're all around their best, and you can see, all the guys in serious form and have got so much control over their game. It's relentless. The biggest challenge is just them being able to maintain throughout a long series, fitness wise in particular. But if those guys are anywhere near their best, all 4 combining together, it is relentless. The batters, they don't get many opportunities to be able to score. The pressure's continuing to tie down. So, yeah, look, it is incredibly good that the 4 bowlers that Australia have got and have had now for a long period of time.
Years.
Yeah, barring a few injuries. So, look, obviously Shane Warne and Glenn McGrath, that combination as a starting point was just relentless at either end. But to also have the firepower of Gillespie or Brett Lee or someone like that to be able to provide a bit more impact. The Aussies just with what they've got now is something very special. And it's going to be bloody hard for the Indian batters. If the Aussie bowlers are at their best, the biggest challenge for those Aussie bowlers is if they have to stay in the field for a long period of time, especially in the first couple of test matches. That will be when sort of more questions get asked.
Well, the most important bowler in the Australian team is Nathan Lyon. Especially now the all-rounder's out. He can hold up one end and allow you to bring the 3 quicks out. I don't think we've seen a better 4 complement each other in Australian cricket. You got the left-arm pace of Stark. Camo can do different roles. He can be the aggressor. He can hit the top of off. He can pull back his pace, shut the scoreboard down. He's a freak, actually. He can do so many different things. And you got Hazel just asking a question time and time again from a great height. So I don't think we've ever had a group of 4 bowlers that complement each other so perfectly as these 4.
Over the period of time that they've done it, I mean, everyone looks at the Lee, Warne, McGrath, Gillespie era, but it wasn't. They didn't play a stack together because of injuries and whatnot. But yeah, it's extraordinary what they've been able to do over this period of time. So India with the bat. What are you seeing with Virat Kohli, a player that you've known over a very long period of time? I think he's got a copy of the book, doesn't he? Maybe he just needs to revert to that. Hopefully he forgot it in his luggage on the way down to Australia.
No, not in this series.
What?
No, you can look at it after
Yeah,
Christmas,
no, that's
after
what I'm
New
saying.
Year.
Hopefully it's back home, wherever home is. But since January 1, 2020, 34 tests, averaging 32. Personally, as a cricket fan, I reckon it's like poking a big bear that's asleep. You just don't want to say anything bad about the guy because you know he's that good. Please be my guest if you want to say something controversial here, Watto.
Yeah,
Get us some hits in India.
Yeah, no, look, not at all.
The pot, but
the one thing that I know with Virat is because the fire burns so brightly and deeply inside of him, his intensity that he brings to every ball that he's engaged in a game has been superhuman. But there has been, of recent times, moments in his career where that fire started to go out because it's just so hard to maintain that intensity, like every moment that he's involved in a game. And that's where the Australian team, they just need to absolutely leave him alone and hope that he doesn't bring that intensity, that like 9 out of 10 intensity to every ball. We've seen that when he's had success out in Australia. He is up and about for whether that's in the field or whether every ball that he's out in the middle, he is up for every single moment. You can see that fierce intensity that he brings. So if he brings that, then that just shuts everything else out, and that's when he'll be at his very best. Whereas if there's stuff going on and that intensity is not exactly there, that's when you see not the best version of Virat. So from an Australian perspective, let's hope that we see that version of him. But if there's anything that sort of sets him, like pokes the bear, then he'll just score runs for fun.
Did you guys learn that the hard way? Sorry, Haz, just quickly.
No.
Like either of you? Did either of you say anything?
Yep.
Once upon a time to Virat?
Yeah, that was... Yeah.
We've been bitten. Like
We're come on, out with
it helped me perform, but it also certainly supercharged him.
What happened?
Mate, a couple of times. I remember playing. It was at the MCG. And I remember going in the lunch break. I was standing with Mitch and Boof, and he was in one of those zones. He came out and he was confrontational to us, and we bit. And he got himself in this bubble, and we couldn't get him out of it. And I said to Boof, we've got to do something different. He's actually controlling the whole tempo of this game. Anyway, we went after him. We called him a sport little brat, and he got a bit shitty a bit. And then we had a missed chance.
I dropped it. That was me. Yeah, thanks for that, Hads.
But then, on your mistakes, Watto.
But then he got back in that. He knew what we were doing, and he got back in that bubble. But an example of how you use stats, and I can sit here and make a story both ways. Like you say, okay, he's played 32 tests, he's averaging 31, so it looks like he's on a decline. Then you look at it the other way. It depends what team you're on. And he's played 13 tests out here, he's got 600s, an average of 50. So where do you look at? The only people that'll know where his game is honestly at is inside that circle. And he'll be the same. If he's sitting there and he's got that fire in his belly to saying, you know what, I don't like Australia. And he plays against us like that sometimes. And you'll know as soon as he walks out. If he walks out looking for a confrontation, don't give him one.
So you gave him a confrontation once upon a time, did you?
We all have.
Numerous times.
Why, Shane?
Because that's also got the best out of me.
Okay, fair enough.
But then Virat's obviously that good. So, you absolutely need to stay away. And like watching Virat play, I know when he walks out to bat, I know whether he's going to have a really good day or not. And there's been it's so often that you walk out and he's in that fight and you're like, oh my God, he's going to be so hard to get out. But you also see when he walks out to bat in the first few balls, if his energy's down and that intensity's down, then you're like, he's vulnerable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was weird against New Zealand. Even I watched that innings he played where game was on the line, the totals weren't big that both teams were chasing, and he did something so randomly. I wouldn't call it stupid. I never call Virat Kohli stupid, but he pushed for a single and ran himself out. Like he went for something that 10 years ago, maybe his pace isn't quite there between the wickets, but he was trying to will himself to something. So it'd be fascinating to see what version of Virat Kohli we get this summer.
Well, that's where leadership comes into play as well. If you've seen that version of him come out looking for to get into a fight, sometimes you've got to turn your back and go, no, we've got him already. He's trying to get up, and then you say to your bowlers, listen, make him play, get him that fourth, fifth stump, and make him challenge his defence here because he's just doubting himself. There can be other times when he walks out and what I said, he's in that zone. Then you got to go, okay, what are we going to do to get him outside of that? So there's a bigger play when he comes out to bat, but his stats have obviously been on decline in the last 30 tests.
What do you put that down to against New Zealand in that series, and is it relevant for what we're about to see from an Indian perspective?
Look, it's not relevant as in the conditions they're going to be facing are going to be more batter friendly in a way. The pace and bounce of ball's not going to turn that much. Even like in India, it's always been a challenge for the Indian like batters as well. When the ball's turning, they just are able to find a way to be able to just get a few more runs than everyone else. whereas coming out to Australia, if the Indian batters in the first test or so are able to sort of get a decent innings under their belt, then it's as good a place to be able to bat in the world. And those guys are very well equipped at playing fast bowling now. It's not like back in the day where there's only one or two Indian batters who really could sort of handle the pace and bounce of the Australian wickets. The Indian players of recent times certainly know how to be able to play those conditions. So look, it's going to be. I don't think there's going to be a lot of signs that they'll take out of New Zealand, that New Zealand series. It's all totally different conditions. The few key guys in particular have had a lot of success in Australia as well, so I think they'll bring that confidence out.
I think India are a bit to blame with their own downfall there. I don't think they need to prepare such extreme spinning wickets.
No.
Like it brings Mitch Santner, he's a pretty good bowler. He knows his craft. But on a wicket like that that's
Patel
turning
as well.
big,
He was awesome.
like Ashwin and that on wickets that aren't turning as big are still world class. It brings the opposition closer. And there does come, and I know you spoke about the top, there does come a bit of luck then in the result. So I think India have sort of built their own downfall a bit by the wickets they're playing.
How do you handle Ashwin with the ball? You go after? Or do you see it through?
Look, for a right-handed batter, when the ball's turning, he's certainly a very different challenge, especially when the ball turns out at the fresh part of the wicket on day one. It's a bit more of a challenge. Yeah. But in Australia, look, he's definitely highly skilled. Right-handers, if they just play him on their merits, in theory, to right-handers, he shouldn't get a lot of wickets against Aussie right-handers. Left-handers, it's obviously a different ball game with that angle that he can beat the left-handers with on the inside. But Ashwin, he's an incredible competitor. He knows how to be able to bowl. He's bowled a lot out in Australia now to be effective. But is effective mean he's going to be a big wicket taker? In my mind, he shouldn't be in Australian conditions when the ball's not turning that much. He's going to be effective. He's going to build pressure because he's highly skilled with his accuracy and his ball variations. But if Australia bat well, then he shouldn't be have a huge impact from a wicket-taking perspective.
Get Hads' deep dive later in the week, I think, before the first test. But from your perspective, where does it go either? How does it fall either way for Australia or India this series?
Gosh, it's a good question. Like for me, the biggest part is the Aussies batting. The Aussies batting, they certainly need to be able to score big runs. Like I've got a great feeling that Steve Smith's going to have a really big summer. Seeing just the little things that have sort of come about from watching him bat in the Major League Cricket, and then in that one day in Melbourne in particular, things have really starting to come together again for him. So I've got a feeling that as we've seen so many times in the past, Steve Smith gets on that warpath, he is an absolute run machine. So I think it's going to be a great test for Steve Smith in particular. But the Aussies batting, that's where they're going to win for sure.
Watto, stay there. We've got a little drinks break. Back in a moment on Willow Talk. With special guest Shane Watson, we're going to talk about test battles with India here, because it's been like fascinating viewing for as long as I can remember between Australia and India. I can vaguely remember when Gavaskar threatened to take everyone off the field in the MCG, and ever since then there's been an edge to these test matches. Did you ever play India together?
Yep.
A few times?
Not with great success.
No, I was just about to say. It was mainly over there. We seemed to tour around your guys' generation. We toured there a lot. Is that when Cricket Australia realised that, there's something on it. There's something in it for us here. It was around the time the IPL started to kick off.
Yep, no surprises about that.
Okay, your first one, Watto, against India, you played against a pretty hot team. You got Rahul Dravid out, LBW. I mean, producer Sam's done all the research here. I couldn't find that one, so I don't know if you got memories on this one, because the next one I'm going to bring up, Mahali 2010, I've certainly got some questions about how that test match ended. But playing India in those days, about trying to prove yourself against a lineup with Dravid, Tendulkar, Laxman, Sourav Ganguly, MS Dhoni, Harbhajan Singh. I mean, that's a fair lineup of cricketers right there.
Yeah, it was absolutely. And you also had at that time were through those years, Gautam Gambhir was on fire as well. He was so hard to get out. So especially in India, we had some long days in the field, and at that time I was bowling quite a bit as well. So it was the ultimate challenge for sure from a bowling perspective, but also from a batting perspective. Coming in and finding a way to be able to be effective. That was probably the biggest challenge that I loved. If you felt like if you're able to score runs over in India in Test matches, then you're pretty well equipped at being able to handle any conditions, really. So yeah, playing Tendulkar, I remember he got 200 in Bangalore. I think it might have been 2010. There were some long days out in the field trying to find a way to get those guys out, but it was a great challenge for sure. But some different challenges as well. Like that 2010 Mohali Test match was something special to be a part of. I'm unfortunately on the wrong side of it, but Mohali a few years later, that sort of time around a Test series in India was a different experience as well when you get suspended from a Test match.
Yes, not doing your homework. Anyway, we're not about that. We're about the cricket, aren't we?
I
Hads?
walked into that. I hadn't been in the team.
Whoa,
Mate, I remember getting off the plane in going from Delhi and I had like 50 missed calls. I'm thinking, oh, what's happened at home? Because I'd just come back.
Yeah.
And it was the manager at the time saying, "Oh, players have been." I'm going, mate, I got off at Mohali and there's cameras everywhere. I'm thinking, I don't even know if I'm playing this test. Mate, it was a nightmare to walk into. Nightmare.
Well, let's go to Mohali 2010. I want your thoughts on this. So, amazing Test match. Always are when it's one wicket decides it or only a couple of runs. So you've performed in this Test match. 126, 56 in the second dig, setting India 216 to win, and Ishant Sharma somehow comes up with 30 odd out of nowhere.
I know.
So fantastic for him. So happy for him.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, it creeps towards a result which hinges on one ball. And Mitchell Johnson feels like he's produced that ball. And Billy Bowden, for some reason, decides not out. I've just shown you the vision. Reflections, Shane?
Yeah, I wasn't that pleased. You can see by my reaction as well.
As calm as I've ever seen you.
No, I wasn't.
Mate, that was close. You one more step over. That's 50% in the 2-game holiday.
It's hard to bite your tongue when you see something like that.
How did Ricky Ponting not say anything? Because he's had the same reaction. 1,000 thoughts, but no words.
Oh, that'd have been there. That just the cameras didn't get him. But it's amazing about it. Like I forgot about that LBW. The one thing that stands out for me the most in that game was how the sort of game finished was Steve Smith coming on as a 12th man, and just the youthful exuberance of a young man coming in, and there's a run out opportunity. I have a chance to be able to win a Test match for my country. Shies the stumps, overthrows.
4 runs,
game done.
2 to win.
So that was probably something that stands out the most. Is like, well, that's Steve Smith. That's the reason what makes him so good, because he doesn't care.
Yeah.
It's like if there's an opportunity to be able to actually like make an impact. Well, whether I'm 20 or whether I'm 35, I'm still going to have a crack.
And you know what? That's why he's played 100 Test matches. He's going to be one of the greats. So all he's seen, and from your mindset point of view, I can win this for my team. Where we would have went, oh, India, what happens if I lose?
Yep.
That's why we didn't play 100 Tests.
This is before DRS, by the way, when India weren't that hot.
No, it wasn't before it.
Wasn't it?
No, everyone else had it. India said no.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Now we know why. Hads, you weren't playing that Test match. You had a busted finger. Looking back on it now,
I had to buy another television.
All because of the umpire with the busted finger. Couldn't do
I
it.
used to terrorise Billy. I used to walk past him all the time and say, Punter's going to write a bad report for you. Better give us a decision. But he would have had a comeback there in India if I had said that. He would have said, I don't care because Tendulkar's twice as big. And if he writes one, I'm gone.
With something like that, can you actually say something once the heat of the battle has kind of gone? You go, Billy, come on, mate. Seriously? Or players and umpires have no interaction whatsoever after that?
I always had a good rapport with Billy. I always enjoyed his company. And he was So I would have definitely have said something to him. And by building a good rapport, there's less chance of getting fined or suspended by saying something to an umpire. Someone that you don't know, there's more chance of getting rubbed out. But yeah, I enjoy Billy's company on the field. He was good value. But a decision like that, I've got no doubt I wouldn't have bitten my tongue. I would have said something for sure.
Anyway, India won the test match. Read it in the record books by 1 wicket. Great test match. Delhi 2013, you captained first and only test. What are your memories of being a captain against India?
Yeah, well, I won't go around the sort of turn of events for me to be able to captain in Australia for that test match. But what I do remember is that was a really diabolical wicket in Delhi. I remember a ball that Phil Hughes faced on day one, a ball just taking off a length and hitting him somewhere. And then the ball was turning like consistently. So it was a real struggle as well for Indian batters. I remember that test match was like a couple of partnerships where if we got a couple of wickets, we were a chance of winning that test match because it was so challenging to be able to bat on. And as Hads mentioned earlier, like because if a wicket's turning a lot and challenging, it just brings both teams sort of closer together, and a little bit of luck goes your way, and then you could actually get on the right side. And unfortunately for that test match, we weren't on the right side of it. But that was an amazing experience to have a chance to be able to captain Australia in a test match, especially where it sort of had come from as well, being suspended the test before. That's another story.
You were there at the time?
No, I had just as a bizarre experience.
Yeah.
So I came in for Mohali. I'd been out of the team for 12 months, personal reasons. Come in, Wadey'd rolled his ankle, I think, playing basketball.
Yes.
I played the Mohali test, so walked into... It was just a really uncomfortable change room. Guys suspended. I think Watto went home for a bit for a birth.
Birth of Will, yeah.
And you go, this is weird. Something's not right here. Then we come to the next test. Wadey's past fit. Like, life goes on. I go home, and Mickey Arthur comes up to me, says, "Mate, you're not playing the test." I said, yeah, I know. Like, I'm coming in as a replacement. Life goes on. He said, "Yeah, but we've got the Ashes coming up. We're going to pick our best team then." And something clicked in me. It just went, "What did you say?" I said, we're going to pick our best team for the Ashes. We'll get through this. And I said, "Bullshit. You just told me I'm the best player in my position, but I'll play in the Ashes. I'm not playing here. This is a test cap." And I stormed off, got the flight home. Mickey Arthur was sacked. I was vice captain. Life goes on.
Bottom lip hit the ground
Mate,
for B. Haddin.
Something went in me.
Yeah.
Like, he said, we'll pick our best team for the Ashes. And I'm going, this is an Indian test match. Don't tell me I'm in the Ashes team. And after that, I was vice captain and played the Ashes.
It does.
I lost it.
It does. Like, all that stuff happens, and it's come out in the next 10 years about all of those things, all of those stories, and what went down. And we probably only know about 15% of it, 20% of it, in the public eye. But if crap is going on behind the scenes, and this happens in any sport, isn't it? Eventually, it's going to skip over the rope and tell a tale in the middle. And I'm not trying to rock the boat of India at the moment. But there's obviously a little bit of a disconnect between the coach who said what he said as he flies out for the tour and what's going on with those senior big characters in the dressing room. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen with India, but in your experience, everyone's got to be on the same page, surely.
Oh, absolutely. When performances are out of character in a bad way, they're absolutely every time there's stuff going on. Like whatever it is, you're not exactly sure. It can be different depending on a certain team environment. But when there's out of character bad performances, there is absolutely stuff going down in that team environment that needs to be sorted out. And it's just it's really obvious. And that's a part of a leader and the coaching staff, for example, is you need to create an environment where you're giving yourself the best chance. That stuff just does not happen because it's hard enough to be able to, for the team to be able to perform really well and have best chance of winning games, even when everyone's at their best and the environment's rosy. When stuff's going down within a team environment, the chances of it just turns into survival mode. It's every person for themselves. You don't care about anyone else apart from I need to do what I need to do to be able to stay in the team to keep getting picked, and it's not enjoyable. And performances, very rarely do you perform in those environments either.
It's like when Hads rolled that basketball out on the court for Matthew Wade to get back in the team back then. Anyway.
I was content.
Hey, the flip side of that is togetherness can be formed out of tragedy. And it happened in 2014, the passing of Philip Hughes. It's wild to think it's 10 years since, but the memories from that time about the togetherness of that group. I remember clearly the photo in Adelaide of that photo of the team after it, and you'd circled around his number. I mean, you get emotional thinking about it and talking about it now, but I can't imagine what it was like to live at the time. Was it as heightened emotions as you can remember about cricket?
Yeah, and just talking about it now, it brings those emotions up straight away, because it was just such a tragedy, and no matter sort of where you're at in your career at that moment in time, that just sort of brings the reality of life back to the front and center, and you could see how the team galvanised together because of losing one of their mates, but also the Indian cricket team as well. Like they were incredibly supportive and empathetic as well around that time. I remember them making the trek up to Phil's funeral up at Maxville, and that was something very special that they didn't necessarily have to do. So, but again, it's just it's you obviously want to celebrate Phil Hughes' life 100% because he was such a special person, and unfortunately missed out on some of the golden years of his life and his cricket life. But it does just brings up those those sad emotions because it is such a tragedy that he's not with us anymore.
Yeah, there are wins and there are wins, Hads.
Well, it was leading into the Test match. I was vice captain at the time. I remember meeting with Darren Lehman about planning training. You couldn't plan training. Like you said, okay, we've got nets here, have a bowl here. We actually didn't know whether players could handle being back playing cricket. Like some guys went to the nets, just said, no, I can't do this and needed time away. And even to the point where we went out for the toss, had the toss, then we sung the anthem. I remember standing there thinking, I'm not 100% sure whether players are going to be able to play this game. And Buff was the same. Buff did a really good job there, actually. He just said, if you can play, you can play. If you need to prepare. But it's not about cricket, because you didn't know whether Davey went out and got 100, Clark got 100. There's some great performance in it, but you didn't know if people were going to pull out the morning of the game, and that was okay too.
Yeah,
that because different people react and grieve in different ways. So it was an extraordinary Test match, but it was leading in. Guys, remember, couldn't bat in the nets. You just couldn't get it out of their head. It wasn't a nice place to be.
No. But I mean, I'm going to lift the mood a little here, and later in the series, talk about someone with a nice little snaffola down low to a certain bowler for someone for a golden duck. Suresh Raina. Good work by you, Hads.
Mate, it happened a couple of times with Watto.
Yeah. What happened on the hat-trick ball? You remember?
No, I can't remember.
You dropped one. No, just
No.
kidding.
No way. No, you did
Not off a hat-trick ball. You did not. But yeah, there are better times in that. But reflections overall, it's, just listening to that, it's hair on back of neck. And again, I can still just remember that photo of you guys out in the middle. I can't imagine what it was like to live. But anyway, incredible times. One for Hads before we move on to the Secret Cricket Club. Gabe got in touch on Instagram, wanted to ask Hads about the time Virat was giving him some lip as he marked centre, then hit his first ball for 6.
The Sydney Test.
The Sydney Test.
Yeah,
What happened, Hads?
yeah.
Who was bowling?
Mate, there's Mohammed Shami. There's a bit that goes into that. So I dislocated my shoulder in the UAE the series before. I probably came back a bit early to be right for India. And the physio strapped my shoulder so it stayed in. But one of my strengths was I could pick up length and play the short, but I couldn't do it at the first Test match. They hit me a couple of times because I actually just couldn't get my arm up. I couldn't run off and take the strapping off. And Kohli was into me a bit, and I said, fair enough.
What was he saying?
Go after him. You can't. What was I wasn't even listening to him.
Yes, you were.
Nah. And then I said to the physio, I said, mate, if the shoulder comes out, it comes out. You're going to have to take the strapping off. I can't get my hand up to pull. Anyway, I got back in Melbourne, same thing, bit of a to and fro. I got my, and in Sydney, he didn't say anything. he just stood in front of me. And what I noticed, he had a new pair of shoes on.
Uh-huh.
And I looked down, so I just started kicking the rocks, the dirt on his shoes, and he was sort of looking at me. And was a bit shocked, and I thought, okay, Shemmy's at the top of his mark. He's a bit mate, he was standing in my personal space. Get back to point, do your job, I'll do mine. We'll fire for 450. And a few things started to come back in my head. You know, they're up and about when things are going good. And I thought, Shemmy's bowled 30 overs here. He's got no energy to get anything short. I said, this is coming just around about here. And I had a bit of freedom. I said, I'm going for it. And as I hit it, you know the ones when you hit and you go, I've got it. And I just turned my back. The reason I turned my back is I started to get the giggles. So, yeah, that was a bit of the story to it. But they got me. My shoulder was locked in, and I couldn't get my bat up to play. But, yeah, I was just kicking rocks at his shoes.
Any advice from Virat for your second ball?
Nah. What do you say? It was in the second tier.
Still trying to find the thing. Right, let's get into the Secret Cricket Club, shall we, Watto? These are questions from our great members on through our Instagram page. You just go through there, hit the Secret Cricket Club button and subscribe to it, and then you'll get notifications of when our guests are coming on. And Watto, there's a few questions for you here, for your good self here. Dan asks, how seriously were you considering coaching Pakistan? And does the white ball job interest you now, especially after I've had that good one-day series? Jump in, mate.
Yeah, look, I was very close to taking that opportunity with the Pakistan white ball team. It was an amazing opportunity, and it would have been a huge, an awesome challenge. But in the end, it just, with other things, with my family, knowing that it would have meant that I was going to have to be away a lot more than what I was going to be already. And just knowing the other opportunities that I've got going on in my life as well, with the other coaching opportunities, it just right now for the time in my life, it just wasn't the perfect fit. But look, I had an amazing experience coaching in Pakistan for the Quetta Gladiators. And the one thing about Pakistan we saw that during this one-day series is they have got such incredible skill across the board. The talent pool that they've got, if they are able to harness and sort of let the politics and that just get out of the way of these incredibly highly skilled cricketers, and there's so many of them in Pakistan, then they will be like one of the world's best, consistently one of the world's best teams. And we saw when it comes together, like what happened in this one-day series, that they are very hard to beat because of the firepower they got with bat and ball. So, yeah, I was very close, but just unfortunately right now just wasn't the right time with where my life's at.
It's open again.
We'll leave that.
Jason Gillespie's done a great job.
Okay, Suresh asks, what was it like to face that infamous spell from Wahab Riaz at the 2015 World Cup?
Yeah, look, that was my own doing, to be honest. So that was self-inflicted, that spell.
What'd you say?
Yeah, exactly. I said the wrong thing. I didn't realise Wahab Riaz could bowl that fast. I knew he could bowl, right? I knew he could bowl good speed, so 140s. But I didn't realise he could really crank it up. And if I knew that, I wouldn't have sort of sledged him as I ran past him from mid-wicket to go in to fill the cordon because he's playing and missing a Mitch Stark so consistently. So I just had a little line as I walked past him, have you got a hole in your bat? Which he thought I said, and it didn't matter because it's the same sort of thing, was, are you holding your bat? It didn't matter. It was the same sort of, along the same lines. Yeah. So from then on, he was like, everything he was doing, because I was batting at 5 in that game, everything that he was doing was to get to me. So, and so it's self-inflicted, and I had to sort of just suck it up, and I got lucky as well. Hook shot down to fine leg and got spilt, and a few sort of gloves over the keeper and that, but that was self-inflicted, and luckily I sort of fell on the right side of it. But I needed to, because we had a couple of guys batting behind me who was trying to make sure that didn't have to face the wrath of Wahab.
The most interesting, there's two things what I remember is Adelaide Oval, you side on. And if someone's bowling 150 Ks, you do not want to be side on. You just go, whoa. See how fast it goes down. The
it's like a plane taking off.
You're just thinking. And I remember just going, you know what, I'm just going to sit out the back, have a can of Red Bull, and I'm not going to watch any more of this. And someone come out, he said, he's going at Watto. And, You know what else I remember?
Hmm.
Steve Smith. Like, he'd bowl it to Steve Smith, and Smith, you go tap it on
So
the top of its
bloody
head,
annoying.
and hit it for one, walk across, and you're just going,
Oh,
hang on a minute.
that
That's when you knew, like, Smith was a different gravy.
Oh, it was so annoying. I was getting absolutely peppered. Felt like he was bowling as fast as what he was, and Steve Smith would get up the other end, and I was hoping that Smudge would take a couple of dots, so I wasn't just like fully like in the firing line. One off his lid, just works it nonchalantly down to fine leg. I was like, surely you can just take a couple of balls.
But so anyway, end of over, he just goes, "Yeah, Shane, we're doing well here. Just keep the scoreboard ticking over."
Yeah, it was different. It was different level. Yeah, that was impressive.
Well, Salas as well. Was it more scary facing Mitch Johnson or Wahab Riaz? That's the follow-up question to that. Mitch Johnson in the nets or Riaz that day?
Well, consistently Mitch Johnson in the nets because he was always nervous about hitting me because we're such good mates. And we had a couple of little we've played so much cricket together. We had a couple of little moments throughout our days where he hit me and I was not happy.
Would you know about it when he was hit?
It was directed back at Mitch as like, come on, I'm your mate and you're bloody hitting, like you're bouncing me.
Yeah.
What about doing it again? That didn't obviously land that well, surprisingly. So then from then on, every time Mitch would run into bowl to me, he'd be running, oh, don't bowl it short, just get it full. And as soon as you start thinking don't bowl it short, you drag it down. So then more chance of hitting me. So I'd say Mitch Johnson consistently, especially in indoor nets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Mitch could do it off 3 steps.
Yeah.
He was just so powerful. But the worst thing you could say to him is if he got on well with you. And he didn't bounce Watto or the keepers because you got on. The top order, mate, he was game on. But the worst thing you had Mitch doing was thinking about not bowling a bouncer. Don't bowl a bouncer. Mitch!
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's
it. Mate,
Brilliant. Sean asks, what was good about playing for multiple T20 teams? Apart from getting a vast array of tracksuits.
the thing that I loved about playing in different T20 franchises was meeting so many different people, so many different players, so many different coaches. That's the thing that I love the most, was just the experience that I got to be able to play with some people that I really enjoyed playing against or revered playing against them and getting to know them away from just being in the battle on the cricket field. So, someone like Faf du Plessis who playing against him always sort of, look, we never had any battles, but just the way he sort of pranced around always rubbed me up the wrong way. But then getting to know him, I realised that he's one of the most incredible people I've met in my life.
Yeah.
That's
He gave you a thing on your book, didn't he?
He's an incredibly
Nice little reference.
good. Yeah, he's an incredibly good person. Same with the experience of playing with MS Dhoni. Only we played against him a lot. He never gave the opposition anything at all, apart from good game.
Yep.
That was it.
Well played.
That's it. So to be able to actually get to know him off the field was again, those if it wasn't for T20 cricket and franchise cricket, I wouldn't have had those opportunities to meet those people.
Well, Dungeon Master asks as part of the questions here, what's your memorable moment with MS Dhoni at CSK? Hads always talks about wherever you go at an IPL game, if CSK are in town, it's Dhoni time. It's yellow everywhere. It's Dhoni's number on the back. It's the place goes off.
Yeah.
Is it being involved in that or something that in private?
There's one moment that actually stands out to me the most. That we're in a team meeting before the game, before we left to go to the hotel, and I'm pretty sure it was a 1v2 game in 2018. And he sort of got us in, just the team who was playing, the 11 that were playing, got us into a circle and just said, I had a calf niggle that I was sort of managing. And something so simple that he said was, no matter what, just look after Watto. Make sure that he's okay. So for someone of his stature to be able to say something like that made me feel bulletproof. Like I was bigger and better than what I was, because MS Dhoni's looking after me to say to the group that my batting's more important than me trying to run after a ball and fully blow up my calf. So that's just the skill of him as a leader. He just knew the right things to say at the right times, and that's what Ricky was so incredibly good at as well. It's just the right thing at the right time to make you feel bulletproof and
Awesome.
make you feel better than what you actually are. And that was something that MS Dhoni did for me at that moment.
Seamus asks, quick one. I mean, Why are you scared of ghosts?
Everyone's scared of ghosts.
I was.
Not anymore?
No.
Yeah.
Because I know how to redirect my mind to the right things at the right time now. Whereas I didn't have those skills back then, so it engulfed me.
Winner's mindset, get the book.
I will say that there's one way of not being scared of ghosts, is just to not believe in them. Anyway.
That's right, redirect your thoughts.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Don't think about that they actually do enjoy fireplaces and they do enjoy the dark.
In Durham.
Lumley Castle.
Yeah.
Yeah, love that.
Sorry, I'm bringing out your memories here, am I? Or anything like that? It's a beautiful part of the world, northeast England. Cody asks, 2011 one-day international 161 against the Poms. Hads at the other end. How good was that? That's the question, pretty much.
Mate, I had the best seat a lot of the time opening with Watto. I had a great time. We didn't go as far as we'd have liked in the 2011 World Cup, but my job was to go real hard early, let Watto get in, then move out of the way.
Mitch asks, not a question, but easily the best drive to watch of the modern era. There you go. Oh, that's just a compliment. That's
Okay,
not a
that's
question.
very-
That might be Jono.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, just trying to get a bit back. Just say, mate.
That's incredibly kind.
Yeah, there was a compilation I saw online last week of Damien Martin's best work.
He was
Spot-
so
Mate,
good.
he had more time than anyone.
He was
Watto's
so
shot
good.
wasn't that covered. It was when he used to load up, then you know he's going to hit it. And if you're backing up, I didn't back up for Watto. I remember Justin Langer give me a blast, actually. He had footage and I wasn't backing up.
Yeah.
And I always backed up. It was just one of the things, And I said, yeah, you're right. I'm not. He goes, well, you got it. I said, no, I'm not going to. I said, if I go too far down, I can't react when Watto hits the ball back to me. He goes, oh, I didn't think of it like that. I said, well, mate, any other one, you get in and out. But if you went too far down, you didn't have time to react when you could see him load up. If you're halfway through stride, you're gone.
Dave, yep, catching it in your grill. Dave asks one, and this is the last one. Loved watching you, Watto. Can you spin a Warney and/or Symonds story, Simo?
I mean,
Oh gosh. Gosh, I've got a
It's like,
a
sounds
number.
Like,
It is a
sounds
number.
like you've
but
got a
look, there's-
library you're
there's
sifting through
there's
right
one of Roy that stands out the most. We were on someone's property. We're doing we're fishing but we had to sort of go on the back of a four-wheel drive where we're going, and all of a sudden the car actually took a jolt and started to take off, and we were standing in the back of the tray, and there's a seat in the back of the tray, and unfortunately I lost my balance and started and the seat wasn't fixed, so it started to slide back and sort of push Roy right into the back of the tray, and then he ended up toppling over the back of the tray. Right, so hit
60 k's an hour or something.
Yeah, so there was just a big puff of dust. Everyone like, oh my god! It was a day before a one-day game in Kent against Bangladesh. It's like, oh my god, Roy's a puff of dust about like 15 meters behind us. Ended up Roy just like hopped up, dusted himself up, just run up. Right, let's go and get some fish. If that was me, I'd have definitely gone out like a sack of spuds. What's happened there? Blame, like, what'd you do there? Nah, Roy, just up and about. Let's go, just do our thing.
how good.
Yeah.
Different. Shane Watson, really appreciate the chat again, mate. We can make a habit of it if you want, and come back in a
great
few
fun.
months'
It's
time
always-
and come back. Best of luck with the updated version, or not updated version, the new way of getting into the winner's mindset, the online course. Once again, go to
ShaneWatson.au.
.au to check it out. Not the .com.au, ShaneWatson.au. Check it out, the online course. Hey, good idea for a Christmas gift as well, or something like that. Tip
That's
people
right.
into it.
Absolutely. And look, before I go as well, I'll set up a 10% discount code as well for the Willow Talk supporters.
Thank you.
WT10. I'll set that up right now, so it's ready to go.
See, everyone, it
Yeah.
pays to listen to the end of the podcast as much
Yeah.
as the front.
And
all
I
right?
told you he's a great cricketer, but a better bloke. I
Yes.
told you. That's what he's remembered for.
Hads, catch you soon later in the week
All the
for more
best.
Willow Talk. Watto, thanks so much, mate. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure to be here.